And welcome to Interesting to See for Wednesday, July 21st. I am Nick Andrews, your daily sports podcast for news, narratives, takes, and sports gambling. I feel completely exhausted because the NBA Finals were on last night forever and ever. Stayed up to watch them. It ended up being an absolutely historic performance from Giannis Antetokounmpo. The Milwaukee Bucks beat the Phoenix Suns in a best-of-7 series. Bucks in six. They got it done. So just first of all, quick thoughts on the series, which my takes are typically awful. He scored 50 points. The Bucks scored 105 points. If he had made his last free throw, that's nearly half. He couldn't shoot free throws very well at all. He shot free throws much better at home than he did on the road this year in the playoffs, but for the most part, he couldn't shoot them very well. He shoots with something like 17 for 19 or 15 for 17 or something. 50 points, 14 rebounds, 2 assists, one of the greatest single-game performances in the history of the sport of basketball. If you watch the game, the first couple minutes were such a gross mess. No other player on either team, to be frank with you, played very well. None of them. Not Devin Booker, not Chris Middleton, not Drew Holiday. Chris Paul was okay. Giannis essentially saw that it was going to be a trashy, gross game, and he just took the ball and put it in the hoop. It was unreal. So now at 26 years old, he has 2 MVPs. He won them back-to-back. He has a Defensive Player of the Year and a Finals MVP. And we're watching him, if he learns how to shoot the three, like this much better, like you know how close I'm holding my fingers when I use that voice, this much better, if he learns to shoot the three just that much better, he will be, bar none, the greatest player on the planet. And his reign is essentially just beginning. The other thing is that in this era of super teams, he could have chosen to go to LA or New York or Brooklyn or Philly or Golden State or Phoenix. I don't know. He could have gone anywhere. He chose to re-sign with the Milwaukee Bucks, which have to be the second smallest market behind Utah, maybe even smaller than Salt Lake City. I think it might be smaller. He stayed. They paid him. He stayed. Unbelievable story. I don't remember the last time someone in sports was just universally liked. I can smell the jealousy coming off of guys like Kevin Durant and LeBron James. Unreal performance. The only thing, as a Lions fan, I hate that Packers fans are happy today. That's really annoying, but just congratulations. The Suns will be back. I don't know that Chris Paul will be back. That's the other part of this that was sad. If you watch the end of the game when they show him isolated walking to the locker room, he just kind of knows. What's really unfortunate is that when the Suns needed a bucket, he seemed to have a little injury. Maybe COVID messed with his brain a little bit. But 3 or 4 years ago, Chris Paul is able to take over that game and make it interesting. It's also the unfortunate part of basketball. Chris Paul's skill and vision and ability, he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, no question. If that dude was 4 or 5 inches taller, who knows? But that's the way the cookie crumbles, man. But the Suns will be back. I think Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges, they're legit. Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, obviously they're cornerstone franchise players. The Suns will be back. The Bucks will be back. It's going to be great to see what happens. There's going to be a lot of shakeups happening with other stars around the NBA. But, man, congrats to the Milwaukee Bucks. There's going to be some PBRs flowing in Wisconsin. So there's nothing else to say. Giannis Antetokounmpo in basketball about 9 out of 10 times with Steph Curry and Kevin Durant and LeBron James and Tim Duncan. The best player can beat the best team. It does happen. And that's what happened here. The most interesting part about this to me is that Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday and Devin Booker of the Suns, those 3 guys they have to be en route to Tokyo for the Olympics today. On July 21st, they have to go today. You just won a world championship, and now you have to go to Tokyo to compete for a gold medal on a team that doesn't look like they care that much, with no fans, no crowd, no fun in Japan because of the pandemic, so you can't party, and poor Devin Booker's got to be on a plane with those guys. Man, what a mess that is. If you're the Milwaukee guys, you got to be like, yo, this is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Sorry, not sorry, Team USA, there are so many guys. Like, where's LeBron? Why isn't he playing? That's what I would probably want to do. All right, let's move on here. Man, don't want to make any inappropriate jokes, but the jokes write themselves. Write your Polak jokes here. 6 Polish swimmers have been sent home from the Tokyo Olympics. The country does their own qualifications. There's the Olympic qualifiers, et cetera, et cetera. The country notified the incorrect people that they had qualified for the Olympics, which, like, what? So 6 people had arrived in Tokyo and had been quarantining and sleeping on the cardboard beds and all that crap. And Poland had to call them up and be like, yo, actually, you're not an Olympian. We need you to go back to Poland right now. There's this video. I'm going to play it right now for those of you that are watching on YouTube or wherever else you might be watching.
Polish Olympic Federation.
These Polish dudes and women on the swim team are like, they're hugging people and stuff. And they're like, they have to go home now. This happened. In 2021, a clerical error happened. It's like when the University of Kentucky accepted like 100,000 people for admission. Unbelievable. A couple other big stories going around the internet yesterday, and will be talked about today. Los Angeles Rams running back Cam Akers tore his Achilles a couple days ahead of training camp starting. 2 real quick thoughts on this. If you're a fantasy football nut, I just listened to a podcast where they thought that Cam Akers is going to be the best fantasy football running back. He really came into form last year in his rookie year. Not going to happen now. So, I mean, it's going to impact fantasy, but that poor guy, injuries happen in the offseason all the time. I don't know where Achilles technology is. I know that ACLs are not what they used to be. The other part of this that really made me reflective yesterday, and I guess this is a take or an observation or something. So I'm a Detroit Lions fan. The Lions traded Matthew Stafford in exchange for 2 first-round picks and Jared Goff. It kind of makes me sick a little bit that Cam Akers' injury is unequivocally good news for the Detroit Lions. And, like, the best-case scenario is that the Rams somehow find a way to lose 14 or 15 games this year, and we all know how that kind of thing happens. It's just really weird. Makes me feel uncomfortable. I would rather Cam Akers not get hurt and get to see Matthew Stafford win a championship, but that's how it goes, I suppose. Okay, a couple of Nick Saban stories right now. The first one, I guess this isn't much of a Nick Saban story. This goes to show what people in Alabama have been, what they've known for years and years and years, which is that Alabama football is bigger than professional football. Well, check this out. According to Nick Saban, Alabama starting quarterback Bryce Young, who didn't start last year because Mac Jones was the quarterback, Heisman finalist. Bryce Young is already so famous and popular in Alabama that he's made $1 million from name and likeness deals, for advertising deals in the state of Alabama. So I promise, and I lived in Philadelphia where they care about professional football as much, if not more, than any other town in the United States. It is not comparable to the SEC. It is not in the same ballpark. It is not the same conversation. Dude has made $1 million. He has not started a game. He's not started a game. That's unbelievable. He's attempted 22 passes in his career. That's it. 22. $1 million. Okay, speaking of millions of dollars in Nick Saban, Deion Sanders made the news yesterday. Deion Sanders, of course, got back into coaching. He's coaching Jackson State. That's in Mississippi. It's an HBC. That means historically black college. I believe they're like Division I AA. So they hired Deion. He coached them. They got to be 1AA because they played the COVID season in the spring. So Deion got mad at a reporter yesterday, which was absolutely hysterical. He has a history of that. You can look it up about, I think he got, what did he get, a pie in someone's face or poured water on a reporter when he was trying to play in the World Series and in the NFL at the same time. So Deion Sanders, he got mad at a reporter for addressing him as Deion. And then he said, and this is the quote. Hold on, let me get my spectacles out here if you want us to watch on YouTube. I'm bringing reading glasses back. Quote, "You don't call Nick Saban Nick. Don't call me Deion. If you call Nick Saban Nick, you'll get cussed out on the spot, so don't do that to me. Treat me like Nick." So one, treat you like Nick Saban? No. Like you are unequivocally one of the greatest NFL players of all time. Nick Saban's impact on football is, you are not in the same conversation. Maybe one day, but that day is certainly not today. Otherwise, you wouldn't be at Jackson State. Number two, people do call him Nick. It happens all the time. One weirdo, I think, in Birmingham addresses Nick Saban as Saban because it's really inappropriate and just straight up unprofessional to address a coach as coach when you're in the media because it implies favoritism. But Deion Sanders freaked out and demanded to be treated like Nick Saban. It reminds me that one time a former Notre Dame quarterback said he wants to be like Tom Brady and Cam Newton. Yeah. Yep. I bet you do. I bet you do, Deion, want to be treated like old Coach Saban. Then call him Deion. It's your first name, bro. What are we doing? All right. Previewing the Arizona Cardinals today to wrap up the show. Cardinals are picked to finish last in the NFC North, which is widely considered the greatest division, or NFC East, or West, oh my goodness, NFC West. widely considered the greatest division of all time in the NFL. Unbelievable amount of teams. Arizona is in the middle of the pack in terms of favorites to win the Super Bowl at plus 3,800. That's a great bet. I didn't think about that bet till I started prepping for this episode. I kind of like him, Kyler Murray. They made some improvements. I am a big proponent on stars on defense and scheme on offense. Everybody's saying that Cliff Kingsbury's on the hot seat. He totally is. I don't know. I kind of like him. I don't know if I like that bet, but I'm sniffing around him. They've got some real stars on defense. Okay, so they're picked to finish last in the division. The Rams are the favorites, followed by the Niners and the Seahawks, and then a huge gap in the Cardinals. All of the teams are flirting with an over-under total that goes right at around 500. All right, so if I recall correctly, yes, found the odds. They're plus 175 to make the playoffs. That's pretty good. They're not a favorite to make the playoffs, and a lot of that has to do with schedule. For example, the Titans are minus 125. That means they're likely to make the playoffs. Plus 175 is good. It's not great. Their win total is over 8.5, so Vegas is expecting them to be above 500. Of all the coaches in the NFL, I would say Cliff Kingsbury is on the second hottest hot seat, which is kind of fascinating because he was supposed to be this guy that was going to unlock stuff. He was going to be like a really forward-thinking kind of person. That hasn't happened yet. It seems kind of very dink and dunky despite having one of the best receivers in the NFL. They drafted really well. Their offensive line is adequate. They've got J.J. Watt and Chandler Jones. Chandler Jones, by the way, is the best defensive end in football. Don't get it twisted. He just plays in a small market on a team that's been bad. He's by far the best defensive end in football statistically. Coming off an injury, we'll see how it goes. Kyler Murray plus 2,000 to win MVP. He was a very hot pick last year. I am off that. That number is nowhere near where I want to be. I think he could win. I would never bet that. Yuck, disgusting. He's also plus 2,200 to be the offensive player in the year. I like that bet. Those odds are good. Usually what happens is the award will go to a quarterback. MVP, offensive player of the year, will go to a running back or a wide receiver who does something interesting as a way to say, like, hey, you're not a quarterback, but thanks for playing really hard this year, which, that's obviously incredibly discouraging. Other Kyler Murray bets, most passing touchdowns in the NFL, plus 3,300. That is an awful bet. He's so good with his legs, he'll run in a bunch. Most passing yards, plus 4,000. Again, awful. I'm staying away from Kyler Murray. Totally staying away from Kyler Murray this year. Just going to be just a bunch of terrible bets. For the Cardinals, I don't know. I think the Seahawks are overrated. I don't think they'll finish last. So you can bet on finish order in most of these sports books. The Cardinals are picked to finish last in the division. I would pick them to finish not last. I suspect that they'll finish second just because for as good as the 49ers say that Kyle Shanahan is, he's only ever had one winning season, and they kind of lose all the time. It's kind of crazy. Just a runaway hype train. The Seahawks, I don't know how they're doing this. They don't have very many good players. DK Metcalf, Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett, sure. Other than that, I have no idea how they win so many games. It's really strange. And the bill on that's going to come due at some point. NFL season gets underway. August 6th is the first preseason game. And, of course, we're going to talk about that. The first preseason game is always fun for like the first 5 minutes. And training camp opens 1 week from today. Incredibly exciting. NBA Finals wrap up. We'll be back same time, same place tomorrow, bright and early. This is interesting to see.